Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Hi. Thank you for coming to using Intercoms for production communication. My name is Kendra Carr. I am the Assistant Service Coordinator at Gotham Sound here in New York City. Thanks for coming on a Saturday, tuning in online. We've got a live stream going, so everybody who's here on a Saturday, thank you so much. Also, thank you to Local 52 for allowing us to have the space for today's event. We really appreciate the support and the partnership. Now, you may have noticed we've got some snacks. Thanks to Peter and Gotham, we've provided these for you, so make sure you get snacks if you would like some.
What about the people at home?
Oh, well, I guess they'll have to provide their own snacks if you're at home, unfortunately. In spirit, the snacks are provided. Bathrooms are right in that hallway through those doors. We will be taking questions throughout the event, so feel free to let us know if you have any questions, or if you're watching online, drop your question in the chat, and I will be monitoring that, and we'll be happy to get those questions going. With that said, I would like to introduce the actual people that are going to be talking today. We've got Justin, Emge, and Vinnie Macri from ClearCom. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you, Kendra.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks.
Thanks.
A little further introduction. Justin is the supervisor of our application engineer team. Those are the people that come to your site, on-site people who commission systems, troubleshoot, educate, train you on things like how to build an IFB if you're not used to how to do that. I work at ClearCom as the consultant liaison and on large system design, basically system design and protocols. Today, we're going to start on the basics because there's some people here who are new to Intercom, let's say. Plus, as we progress through here, there's going to be some terms that maybe some of you might not know, and we're going to be throwing these out, and so we want to make sure that everybody's on the page. For those who get this, go have a drink. For those who are going to stay and listen, here we go. So we're going to make sure we're all on the same page. Like I said, we're going to talk about party lines and 2 wires and 4 wires, what they are, what they're not. But I think before we go further, this was important, and Peter and I talked about this. This happened, and from that, a lot of people's lives changed. I think your group is lucky because you have an organization that quickly rallied to bring you back online, as compared, say, to the theater people on Broadway who were 18 months out of work. So what this led to was this, which is a ClearCom version of your media zones on a television shoot or a episodic film type of thing. And from that came new solutions because you were used to, so now you had a social distance. How do I talk to those people over there? Or the director and the executive producer are home in their kitchen, and we need to them to talk to the actors on stage. And so there was a whole new learning. And so Peter, Gotham, ClearCom, many other manufacturers rallied to this cause. And there are many solutions now that maybe you didn't know about before. And that's why we're here today, to show you some of this. So we're going to jump right into such things as communication methods, and this is simple stuff. So there's simplex and duplex, and duplex is half duplex or full duplex, and really the way to understand that is this. Simplex is paging, talking to a microphone, comes out a loudspeaker. Could be like what we're doing here right now, talking to you, simplex, although this is a full duplex communication. You can butt in and talk to me. I can answer your questions. You can talk over me. I can talk over you. That's full duplex. Half duplex, as you know, is a two-way. A common mode is a two-way radio conversation, and that that'll bring us to Some rules about radio communications. Now, we are lucky enough to be in other markets other than entertainment. And some of those markets are very heavily two-way radio, like first responders. And there are a lot of rules to how to operate a two-way radio, and they call them tips. I think they're issues in some ways. So I know that when we worked with some SWAT teams, if you don't know how to use a radio and the guy on the other end hears shoot, what he missed was don't shoot. That's a problem. So you need to know how to work a radio. There's a whole language you had to learn: 10-4, over, Roger, copy. Not that there's not a whole language in theater, or when a stage manager calls a thing, and so we progressed from this, although we do tie into two-way radios, and we'll show you that because we're tied into two-way radios here on IP, as a matter of fact. So common intercom terms. If you don't know these, it's good background. Do you need to memorize them? No, but 2-wire and 4-wire. All of these products have 2-wire and 4-wire I/O. 2-wire is the path is the same for the talk and listen. 4-wire is 2 paths, one for talk, one for listen. In an audio world, that would be an audio in and an audio out, or send and receive. That's a 4-wire. They're typically wired like this. Shielded, twisted pair is 2-wire, like a mic cable. You'll see today most 4-wire circuits, rather than run 2 twisted pairs, is using Cat5 because it's economical, it's in the building, it's easy to do, and when I show you how to terminate it, it's even better. So, then there's cable. Cable is not just cable. Cable is very important for intercoms, especially analog party line intercoms, RTS, Clearcom, or anything compatible to those. So you want cable that has low capacitance and low DC resistance. Why? Because it'll go further, and it'll be immune to more things. Star Quad is a complete bozo no-no for any kind of intercom. Now, if you're using Star Quad for your wireless mics or your microphones on stage because you want to be away from EMI thing, that's great. So you take the blue pair and you twist them together, and you take the white pair and they twist them together and they put them on an XLR. What you just did was tripled the capacitance, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So you want to stay away from that. Here's pinouts for Clearcom on top, RTS on the bottom. You'll notice that RTS has 2 channels on a 3-pin. We have 1 channel on a 3-pin. Although we can do that. We have a converter for that, and their levels are a little different. All this is in several books that we have, and it's pretty much easy to find online. But you should know that when you're interfacing, because a lot of our products and a lot of RTS products are Clearcom and RTS compatible. So when you plug in, say, a RTS line in a Clearcom device and you set it for RTS, it automatically does the level differences for you, but you might not know that, and it might squeal. So you need to be careful of levels. So here's a Clearcom method. So this is Clearcom pinout of 4-wire. We use the blue pair and the green pair. We also use pins 1, 2, 7, and 8 also for data on other products, but for just a straight ahead 4-wire, you want to interface to a panel like this, male and female, audio in and out, to go into a matrix or go into an analog telephone hybrid, or to maybe take the analog 4-wire and put it in a two-way radio. You're going to break it out to audio in and audio out. Simple. This way. Does it make me look better? Yes, that's a good answer. Okay, just want to make sure I'm to my good side, Peter. Yeah, this is how you would break out to a cable. If you happen to have a panel, if you wanted to build a panel, this is how you would wire it out to a panel. So now we have a 2-wire device and we have a 4-wire device, and they're different. How do we crash them together? It's called a hybrid, and there's many hybrids out there. Studio Technologies makes them, Glen Sound makes them, we make them, RTS makes them, lots of hybrids out there. The issues with crashing 2 wires to 4 wires is the level differences, and the conversion, because you have to take two wire and crash. You have to get the receive signal, and I'll show you what that looks like. If done right, you won't have an echo. If not done right, you might have. This is why when you take an analog party line and put it in a wireless base station, I don't care if it's RAD or it's ours, it's BTRs. If you're still using them, you have to null the circuit. You've probably seen a nulling button. Some of them do automatic null. Some of them are painful, where you have to adjust the inductance, the capacitive, and the resistance on the line. But a nulling circuit kind of looks like this. It's a simple diagram. You don't have to know it. But basically, here's your 4-wire coming in, and it's going to go to the 2-wire, and the 2-wire is going to go to the null. And in the null, it's going to adjust the capacitance, because depending on how much cable and how many belt packs you might have on that 2-wire line, it all adds up to high capacitance, high DC resistance, and inductance. So what that creates is, maybe at the high end, you're going to roll off at the high end. It's not going to sound very good. So you have to know. You have to know when you do a 4-wire conversion. And worse is if the load changes, you add another 100 feet, you got to null again. And these are general rules. If you put 5 more belt packs on, you need to null again. You should. Unless you're in the middle of the show and you need to get through. Depends on your circumstance. So when you're in the null, the 4-wire will feed back out and you'll hear it. So this goes through the null, and in this null, it inverts the 4-wire and cancels it out. So you get no 4-wire, so you're not listening to the 4-wire. That's annoying to hear yourself twice. So that's a little tutorial on hybrids, and so in a product like Arcadia, and in our FreeSpeak base stations, and in some of our other products, where you have a 2-wire and a 4-wire, you can go into the web browser and null the circuit. It's just a toggle. You hit it, and it'll null the circuit. So, you got anything you want to add to that? No. This is an example of a hybrid, although it's a lot more. You see on the left, on the bottom, is a little device we call LQ. Peter has one in the back.
Here's one.
Connected, and there's one there. we make a 2-wire one and a 4-wire one. So you'll see the 2-wire, you plug your intercom in there. Plug your RTS intercom or your ClearCom intercom into this box. Put it on the network. And this box could be anywhere in the world. Could be in the same building, could be in the same rack. And it'll take the 4-wire out. And what you do in the web browser is you take, I want that channel and that channel in a party line, and you just crash those two together. So people who have channel B on their belt pack are now talking to whoever is connected on here, and it could be a matrix, it could be another 2-wire intercom, this could be an audio console. It's analog audio. It could be anything you want. So what makes these boxes so special over a network? If you are using audio over IP devices, I don't want to mention any manufacturers, but they are probably 4 channels, 8 channels, and they all use the same codec. And they all are using the same transport. So they're either G711 or G...
Use that?
Use this?
Yes.
Oh, my mic's not working. Do I have it switched on? I'm sorry. So they're all using the same codec. Maybe they're G.711, maybe they're G723. So they're all sending 711, and they're, on the other end, they're all receiving at G.711. In this box, I can take this port, vary the bit rate, the bandwidth, and the jitter, separate for send and separate for return. And I can do this one different than that other one, which allows these boxes to go on the internet. So we sell a lot to universities who do sports, and they put their sports content on ESPN. Now, they don't have Monday Night Football budgets. They're doing shows on 50 megabits, or maybe 100 megabits if they're lucky. And so this is a way to not only to get transport across a network, a private network or a LAN or a WAN, but it's also doing the 2-wire to 4-wire conversion. And we have other boxes like this that have 4-wire on a DB9 that includes a GPIO. And guess what you can do with that? A 2-way radio. And just for fun, how do I get to, I have a PDF open somewhere here. Do I?
This is on a different laptop. Is it on your laptop?
Oh, maybe I didn't open the file. Here it is.
Oh, cool.
This is every radio connector ever made. I don't know if you want this file, I'll send it to you. But let me just show you how big it is. So, which one? I think it's the.
Repeat the question.
Which one is for the CP200?
Which is it for the CP200?
Yeah, which connector?
I think it's the I think it's an M1. I don't know. I mean, I can't memorize all this stuff, but. Hold on. My fingers aren't working. Motorola, Hytera, Kenwood. I don't know, but it's in this list. I'll give you my card. I'll send you the list.
Well, real quickly, if I could jump in, this might be a great time for me to introduce you to a solution that we have.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you guys get home, go to clearcom.com, /solution finder.
Yeah, that's great.
Hopefully this has internet. It should. By the way, we are getting a new website. We're literally within a month or two. So this embarrassing slow drag here will go away. I just saw it this week, so it looks really good. It'll be really fast. Oh my gosh. All right, you know what? I'm going to do this. Oh, wait, did it go? Nope.
Do you have internet connection?
Let's try this.
Any questions so far? Other than CP 200?
Yeah, question about the LQ. So you have a 2-wire on one side, and you have to have the 4-wire interface on the other side too?
Nope.
They can both be 2 wires.
You can put up to 6 LQs in a what we call LQ network.
All right, so for the online listeners, what was the question?
I'm sorry. So the question was, do you have to have a 2-wire on one side and a 4-wire on the other side? And the response to that is no, you don't. You could put up to 6 LQs in the network, an LQ link group, and they could be anywhere in the world or in a building or on a job site, and they all link together. You point them to a host, and then you then go in the browser and you say, I want this 2-wire and that 2-wire and that 2-wire and that 4-wire in this channel, and that 4-wire might be attached to a 2-way radio, and the 2-wire might be using a biscuit. He might not be using a belt pack. So yeah, no, you do not need to use disparate. You can use different LQ devices, and we make the 2-channel one, and then we make an 8-port one, which is four 2-wires and 4 4-wires, and others that are just 4 wires with the GPIOs that you saw.
Vinnie, I'll jump in and just answer
So the LQ is one of my favorite products, and the way we have it is we have an LQ at the home office, and then we point the remote LQs to that, and that way, no matter where they are through the dodgiest of cell connections, we're not worried about firewalls, even, like if it's in a hotel ballroom, notoriously bad for firewall stuff.
Yes.
It's easy for a Clearcom dealer to suggest that as a solution because it involves having an extra LQ, but it solves so many issues.
the 4-wire interface.
Well, it depends. Yeah, we're often using the 4-wire interface because it's like we can connect walkie-talkies, around the country. So you have a crew in New York on a walkie talking to a crew in Los Angeles on a walkie, and the walkie people don't know they're going through the internet. So that's an example of a 4-wire, and we'll show some other solutions. But yeah, you could have them in a control room or something like that on 2-wire stuff, and they won't know either.
Yeah.
So, in fact, here's a quick intro of what we've got. These are all our 1RU, and these are the throwdown boxes. On the 1RU, you can get 2-wire, 4 ports. You can get 2-wire and 4-wire, 4 ports of each. So you could have a combination just in this one. You have 2-wire and 4-wire. The G means GPIO, so that could be multiple 2-way radios. Then you got nothing but GPIO. And then on the throwdown, you've got the 2-wire, 2-port, 4-wire, 2-port, or GPIO 2-port. The one we've got here is a 4-wire, standard regular one, this guy right here.
Yeah.
That breaks out. So you can either do 4-wire directly to an Arcadia or to any device that takes balanced audio, or you can even break it out with a little adapter.
Which I showed you before.
Yes, you did show that.
A good example of this. We do a lot of college sports, and it might pertain to some of the things that you guys are doing at NBC. They're building fly packs. So they have a basketball arena where they put the control room, and then they build a fly pack, and in the fly pack is an LQ, some Dante devices. For announcers, commentators, they put a FreeSpeak in there, and the FreeSpeak has the analog 2-wire that can go right out to the analog 2-wire belt packs. So the fly pack can go to the soccer field or the lacrosse field or the baseball field or whatever, and it ties back to the control room, and now they have cameras, camera PLs. They have announcers on Dante back, and it's all done with LQ to a frame in the control center. So it's got a lot of applications. So I was at the two-way radio part, which was basically really.
Oh, I remember.
You were going to show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one thing I want to show you, Solution Finder. You go to our website at the very top. Oh, let me zoom back out. And we're going to reference this a lot today, so it's good that we just knock this out. Under support, there's the link. Otherwise, it's clearcom.com/Solution Finder. It takes you to an external site that we manage on the support side. And inside of here, we've got, I think we're now up to 4,000 articles from all the years that we've been just throwing things in there. If you scroll down, there's the pinout solutions. So I know most of you are not interested in this, but there's the CCUs. Right now they've got cameras set up for the streaming. Well, if it's a large event that's got a camera operator with the headset going into the camera, they're going to have a CCU. Well, we've got pinouts for that. So you can tie two-way or two-wire or four-wire to it. In addition to that, if you click on this, we've got the pinouts for all of our products, including other devices like two-way radios. So if you click on the two-way radio, we try to break this down as much as we can. And on the support side, as we go out in the field, we'll try to identify what we've done and make note of it. And Vinnie's actually given me a decent amount of these. Which was the model? I'm sorry?
CP200. See it right there. It's down under
more.
miscellaneous.
So this says it's going to an FOR22. I'm pretty certain the FOR22 is the same as the LQ and maybe a few others. But you got a starting point now. So please go check that out at clearcom.com.
Or email me. I'll give you a card. I'll get you the pin. So I was actually at the point where I was showing the two-way radio interface on an LQ. It was kind of at the end, and really not more that I wanted to talk about, because all of this stuff that I just talked about we can demonstrate it all today, because all this stuff is connected, two-wire and four-wire and IP, and we've got radios connected. We've got IP to a remote site in Brooklyn connected. I guess we could show at some point. We have an app called Agent IC that's on tablets and phones, Android phones or Android tablets or iPhones, that gives you, hold on, let me open it. Agent IC, got it? If I click on it and I can get out of this building, it'll connect to a server in San Diego. And you can load this on your phone. It's free. It's a free demo. And you can actually talk on it. So if you want to load it on your phone and just demo it, you can. But we have this as an app. There's several of them. Unity has an app, as you know. I think that's about it. Us and Unity. I don't know of any other. Probably some kind of chat, other thing. But any questions on two wires and four wires and interfacing and basics of intercom? You will have a card, so you can certainly email it afterwards. Yes, sir. Yes, I even tethered it to my phone one time. Can you show them the screen inside the LQ?
Yes, I could show that here in a minute. The biggest thing that, and this is what Gotham Sound does, the key is to have one of these LQs or a hosted device that you manage at your home office. And usually you have two options. It's either you do a VPN, and you set up a VPN internally at your office, and then you take a VPN box, a client, and you put it with the LQ, and it phones home, and it creates that IP tunnel. It doesn't care if it's on a corporate network. If the corporate network just gives you internet, that's all you need, it'll phone home. The other option that's easier is if you go and buy a static external IP. You guys familiar with what that is? Okay, so let's step back for a moment. So I saw a couple of heads going, oh, what's talking about? If you go home and you type in your computer in Google Chrome, what is my IP? It'll come up with some random IP address, something you'd probably never see in your life. That thing is actually coming from your internet service provider, from Verizon, whoever. And actually, if you go and you typed in that same what is my IP in a computer next door to you, they'll have the same IP address. So what happens is in the construct of the internet, down the street somewhere is one big router and one big switch that's taking in all of this internet traffic, and it goes, oh, you get this data, you get that data, you get that data, but it's all using that same external IP address out in the open world. What you can do, though, is go to your internet service provider and you go, I want to buy 3 IPs. And you pay an extra $50, $100 a month. I mean, how much do you think you guys probably spend?
We have 5 IPs. They come in blocks here. Let me grab the mic. Yeah, I mean, for us at Gotham, they come in blocks of 5. It's like $25 a month extra. But yeah, I mean, I think what Justin, what you were saying is spot on. It's either you get a static IP, and then everything phones home to that, or you get a VPN. We standardized on PepWave modems because they have a kind of VPN functionality built in, and it's, I mean, for me, it's VPNs for non-network types. Like I'm not thinking about it, and it's a little too nerdy and detailed for even for like our seminar. But as we're wrapping, I'll let anybody, I'll go on the VPN and I'll show you exactly what it looks like. To answer the question about hotels, when the LQ is a client, right? When it's just looking for what they call the master LQ, it's no different to the firewall than web traffic. And so I haven't met a firewall yet that's blocked it.
Yeah.
And the light goes green, on the client LQ, and you're good to go. So it's the technology they put in there is very, very smart.
It's no different than having your laptop at your facility, plugging it in, and automatically getting data. It's just going out to the internet. And usually all you do is just plug it in and make sure it's set to DHCP. And it'll get an IP address from the facility and you're going. But if you try to do it the opposite way, where you try to host everything locally, that's when it's going to fall apart. Because you're going to go, all right, Mr. Hotel, what's your IP address? They go, no, I'm sorry. Because at that point, they got to go in, and the only reason I'm showing this is if you do the static external IP like Peter said they do, you got to go into your firewall, and you got to go, okay, I have this external IP address. I now need to forward it to my internal, because external and internal are 2 different things. Because at home, if you guys ever looked at your IP address on your laptop, what is it normally? 192.168.1. Blah, 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 blah. Well, the external is probably 166.523.166. Who's ever heard of that? So you have to do all these rules within the firewall. And there's ways to do it, and we explain it in our documentation. And by the way, this is also a good segue, we provide free support. So as long as you got a product, I don't care if it's 30 years old, we do support it. So if you decide you want to do something like that, and you want to host an LQ at your home even, we can try to walk you through that and make sure it's done properly.
Would you like to try it?
Yeah. No, I would like to have an LQ
That's
in
what-
New York, have an LQ in Burbank, have an LQ in Chicago, have an LQ in Miami,
So-
have them in trucks behind.
So if we got you 2 LQs for a demo,
Yeah.
that would,
And then we'd be able to put them in different places, and they're all behind, within our corporate network.
fine,
Oh, yeah.
done.
And I'm betting that in most cases for what you're talking about, it's probably all tied together over one large WAN, which means they're all routable. So you're not even you're going to the internet, but you're going through a dedicated tunnel, which is even easier. So, yeah, that's easy to do.
Yeah, we could.
Any other questions? Continue.
What's that?
Just if you have
Yeah,
questions,
that's
please
right.
repeat them.
Oh, yeah.
So our online audience.
Please
can-
keep us honest. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes.
Okay, so where
Any
are we
other?
now?
What's that?
Where are we now?
Well, are you done with your part?
I'm done with my part. So I think what we're going to do now is Justin's going to run through some of the solutions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Peter's gonna jump in. Yeah, he's saying he's nodding, yeah. So take it away, handsome.
All right. So I think I'm going to steal this guy. We'll go over to here. Let's hope it works. We had problems earlier.
It'll work.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Let's try this. Actually, let me go back to this.
Doesn't like it.
Hold on.
Doesn't like it.
All right, so while this is pulling up, as a
you go.
reminder, I am the applications engineering manager. We do usually, I would honestly say we only touch about 9% of the systems that go out, and we sell a lot of stuff. The goal of ClearCom is to make a product go out the door and it be easily set up, whether it's through you looking at manuals, videos, what have you. So if you ever come to a point where you're like, that wasn't easy, that was not intuitive, I'm hoping you're ringing us up, because most of you here should be able to buy anything here and be able to make it work. Now, I will say, when we get into the IP stuff, it gets a little more difficult. You got to have a little bit different subset of understanding of how IP works, but we're here to help. And again, the tech support is here for free. So what I'm going to dig into today, though, is a broad overview of our newest product, the Arcadia, the endpoints that you can connect to it, how you do it, and then I'm even going to dig further into the IP connections with LQ. I might even demo a little bit of our Eclipse frame. I don't have one here, but I do have one sitting in our AE lab down in Alameda, California, where we're headquartered. And it is also set up on a static IP. So I'm able to take this and phone home. And I'm going to do a demonstration of doing FreeSpeak II. So you all are familiar with FreeSpeak II or the FreeSpeak Edge, our newest bell pack. Wireless, go into the Arcadia. Arcadia go into the LQ. LQ go into California. California to my phone. And guaranteed it'll be less than a second latency, all over 4G. So it's all low bandwidth. The only thing that's high bandwidth or low latency but very high quality is your FreeSpeak II AS67 and your Dante. But that stuff's local, so who cares? It can eat up more data. So let's start with the Arcadia. There's the guy. Ms. Vanna over here, I know you need to show that. You got it? You see it? All right. So, let me do this too. Turn on that. On the front, you've got a couple of little buttons. It's pretty similar to the FreeSpeak II base and the HelixNet base station. It is meant to be a user station, so it actually has a speaker. It's even got a microphone for the Bob Barker microphone, I like to call it. You know what? I'm sorry, you're right. Let me actually just pull up a picture of it.
Go to the website.
Sorry, I was thinking of the people online. Thank you. Let's do...
Up in the middle.
There it is.
Yep.
You know, while this is pulling up, it's the whole goal of Arcadia, especially if you think about Broadway and all the different shows that are in New York. If you go into the rack, you actually see two devices, a FreeSpeak II base and a HelixNet base. FreeSpeak II because you want your wireless and maybe connection to 2-wire, and then HelixNet because you want your IP belt pack. And then technically, normally, you'll see 4 devices, one FreeSpeak II and one HelixNet, and then a backup. What we've done now is we've taken all of our products, we put it into one single 1RU base. That even includes Dante. So on the front display, as I mentioned before, you've got your user station. It is touchscreen, so it needs to be in a place where they can easily touch that, but generally speaking, if you tap around that talk button, it will get it. It's got the Bob Barker mic, as I like to call it. That's the normal 1/4-inch end on it. We at one point had 4-pin XLR type twist in, but that tended to break on the inside, and the Bob Barker mic is just, well, it's still being used, so everybody loves that. And then there's a 4-pin XLR that you can change to other pinouts. As you go to the back, we've slammed a lot of stuff into a single 1RU box. First of all, it's got 2 power supplies, one internal and one external. It's got your GPIO ×2, so you could do 2 two-way radios directly into it. If you decided that you need to be local, of course, you could do an LQ down somewhere else, but at least local, you've got that right there for two two-way radios. You've got 4 port to 2-wire. And keep in mind that that will power belt packs. So we've got, let's see, I think I got a 2-wire belt pack here somewhere. I could take probably about 10 of these belt packs.
More
Per. Is it more than that for the whole unit?
for the whole unit.
So for the whole unit, because the channel A and B are tied together and C and D are tied together, it's about 10 to 15 that you can do on each side. It's dependent on, of course, how much cable you've got and other things going on, but it will power a decent amount of belt packs. Do you have actual numbers?
And it's RTS compatible.
Oh, it is RTS.
So you can have these RTS and these ClearCom.
That is
and
correct.
Crash them together inside the firmware, in the software.
And by the way, the RTS part, it's just actually going into the GUI. You just select it and it flips the pins around. It's really easy. 4-wire, we've got 8 ports. So in the old systems, we only had 4 ports. We've doubled that capacity. And on the 8th port, we actually turned it into an SA program a connection. Now, if you again, for those of you familiar with FreeSpeak II and HelixNet, you got SA and program, SA being stage announced, program being program audio coming in. Because everybody likes to be able to hit the belt pack and talk to the voice of God or have audio come in from the mixer. And that's balanced audio. So you'll notice, though, this is not balanced audio. It's a 4-wire RJ45. So we include, and not, it looks a little better than this because we made this, but it basically comes with one of these. It's got a male and female XLR for your balanced audio in and out. After that, you've got your, and I'm going to use the word legacy E1 transceivers. I don't have one up here.
Yeah.
If you guys look up here, that is our original FreeSpeak II transceiver. E1 connection is what we call it. And it can connect up to 5 FreeSpeak II belt packs or 4 FreeSpeak II 2.4 belt packs. We still support those on this, and you can either do directly into it and have 2 of them direct, or you could take them out to splitters and spread them out and do up to 10 of those transceivers. And then also those splitters, and again, I don't have one here, but it's got an SFP fiber port in it for E1, so you could take that fiber and run it to the other end of a stadium as an example, over dark fiber, and you can then extend your system. But the key part of this is this portion at the end. That's the LAN ports. We've got 4 NIC cards in this, so you can go up to 4 different LAN connections within a system. So LAN 1, for example, could be your administrative portion to be able to get to the CCM, which we call Core Configuration Manager. You can then have LAN 2 be your AS67 for your FreeSpeak 2, so this transceiver.
Or the 5 gig.
Or the 5 gig, the FreeSpeak Edge. You could have LAN 3 go to Dante. Maybe LAN 4 is your HelixNet. So you could split out your traffic because in most cases, you need to be careful when you work with the AS67. How many of you, just raise of hands, how many of you are dealing with AS67 these days?
Not many.
Not many. It's coming. Be careful.
Peter's the only one.
Yeah. He's back there doing ticks right now, thinking about it.
Before you go into that, let me just give you a quick rundown. This box is sold in by ports, from 16 ports up to 128 ports. And a port is a wireless belt pack, a Dante stream, or a HelixNet channel. So if you had 10 wireless belt packs and 10 HelixNet channels and 10 Dante ports, you need a 32 port box. But you buy firmware and you blow it in the front and it becomes a 48 or 64 or an 86 or a 128. The box will support 40 wireless belt packs of 1.9 and 2.4 legacy, 1.9 IP or 5 gigahertz IP, all at the same time. So we accept the 1.4, 1.9 rather. So we've got people that are using 1.9 and 5 gigahertz on the same system for capacity, lots of bell packs. So I thought I'd add that in because it's pretty useful to be able to have Dante. By the way, it's up to 64 bidirectional Dante streams available in the box. How you use them is up to you, and how you allocate ports is up to you. So it's quite a powerful little box. Now, I should mention, at a school, but nobody's going to, this is going to go on the internet? Oh, shoot. All right, I'm going to say it anyway. Under development right now, soon to come out, is LQ functionality built into this. So now you can have Arcadias talk to Arcadias soon on that. And that builds the forward the application where we can put matrix key panels on here, and it starts to be quite an interesting little box.
All right, so
Sorry.
no, it's fine. AS67. You guys are familiar with Dante. A lot of shaking it. Well, that's AS67. But Dante makes it easy. So have you heard of the thing called the Brooklyn chip? That is what makes Dante kind of special. Dante took AS67. They were the earliest adopter of it as far as I can tell. And they basically said, well, there's this awesome audio codec that's really, really high quality sound and low latency. But the problem is timing and making it all work on the network. So they went out and they talked to manufacturers like Clearcom and Sony and Shure, and they just said, hey, we got this chip. We'll sell it to you for this price. You put it in your product, and then it'll just automatically be found, and then people can route their stuff. And we're like, okay, sounds good. Let's do it. And you guys have adopted it like crazy. Well, most people don't know what's under the hood, and under the hood is AS67 audio. So they've made it easy, but going forward, the industry is now moving, and manufacturers like us have moved to use AS67 in other ways, rather than just routing audio from here to here. So for example, this transceiver. This is the younger brother to that E1 transceiver up there. That only connects home run to the device. It cannot go through IP. Even though it's an RJ45 connection on it, an Ethernet cable, it cannot go through an IP device. This, however, can go through your local network, and it will connect over that switch back to the frame, and it's using AS67 audio to have low latency going back and forth to the transceiver so that it gets to your wireless bell pack as fast as possible and with high quality. And I would actually say the quality from here to this bell pack is better by a small margin than going to that E1 transceiver because of the protocol that we're using. Same holds true for the Edge. Now, why I'm digging into this is because as we go along here, you need to keep Dante, in most cases, separate from other AS67 traffic. And the reason being, and again, I know I'm getting into the weeds a little bit, but it's important for you to hear this because later on you're going to go, I remember hearing this. I need to research. It's a thing called PTP. PTP stands for Precision Time Protocol. I think it was actually developed, I found out, for Wall Street. So when they were doing all these exchanges over IP back in the day, they said, we need to make sure that when I push the button at 5:02 and 32 seconds and that so-and-so milliseconds, that the guy that pushed the button a millisecond after me, he doesn't get the same price that I got. So they came up with Precision Time Protocol, and it literally takes all of the network and times it together perfectly over GPS. Now, in this case, we're using PTP because we have to have perfect timing. If you are going to have 15 of these transceivers on one single Arcadia spread around a massive facility, they all have to be perfectly timed in order for a bell pack to roam from one to the next and never skip a beat. It's nothing worse than you needing to communicate and go, hey, because you're moving from one transceiver to the next. So PTP has to happen. Here's the thing, though. This uses PTP version 2. In fact, I would say most AS67 traffic today is PTP version 2.
That is the standard.
Yeah, that is the standard. Dante is currently still on version 1, which is fine. The issue is that Cisco switch or that Netgear or whatever you're using, they have a tough time having two versions of PTP running across that network. It runs into problems. And then you deal with the thing called jitter. And jitter is when you hear that, it's dropping bits. The switch only has so much bandwidth, it has to drop something at some point. And if you have two versions of PTP, that's when that will happen. So this is why we have done this. We want to be able to take LAN 1 and go to the larger network and be able to access the CCM, maybe get agent IC going to it, maybe a panel over IP, maybe an LQ going to it, and then LAN 2 goes to Dante, completely separate. In fact, most places standard, they keep the Dante network completely separate from everybody else for that reason. And then LAN 3, maybe we take that fiber into a different switch that does these guys. Any questions on that so far?
You're not talking about setting up VLANs within your switcher. Dante and AS67 live on the same switcher?
They
So
can.
the question is for our
Yes. So, okay. Good question. Thank you. Please. If every time you stand up, I'm going to remember to repeat the question. All right. So the question: can you put AS67 Dante and AS67 this guy on two different VLANs on the same switch? Is that the question?
They would live together in one switcher without using VLAN.
So, it's first of all, you can set up VLANs. We have. Well, the problem is if you don't set up VLANs, there will be problems at that point. VLANs help, but we've also seen some switches not be able to handle the PTP between the VLANs. We've actually seen the PTP leak from one VLAN to another. Then the next problem that you run into is if, let's say, you have this switch here, and it's doing fiber trunking to another switch somewhere else, that trunk has to merge all that traffic into one connection. And at that point, now you're merging PTP versions. So even though the VLANs will have them separate, the minute you trunk them, you could run into some problems. And it's different from switch manufacturer to manufacturer, switch to switch. We actually, and I'm not going to say the switch manufacturer or the model number, but we have seen a switch recently take PTP traffic and put it in the future. Or I'm sorry, yeah, in the future. We're like, what is going on here? And even Cisco, oops, I said Cisco. I didn't mean to say that. I won't tell you the model number. Cisco was like, okay, that's a weird one. That's a bug. So we actually found a bug for Cisco, which is kind of unheard of. So the point, though, again, to answer your question, it's better to VLAN them out, but it's even better to keep AS67 traffic on different hardware. And that doesn't matter if it's ClearCom or anybody else. It's just it's a good practice.
Yeah, we were gonna talk more about comms, but we can have a whole conversation about networking because then especially with this AES67 timing, the timing, it's not just the AES67 audio on the connection. We also have the beacon, the RF beacon, so the belt pack can find the transceiver on there, and that takes more time.
You're talking about DECT.
The DECT,
Yeah.
the DECT, that takes a little more time. But then when we get to networks, then we're going to have a conversation about hops. And the hops start to become important when you've got a lot of AES67 devices on the network. You need to, if you can, you want to bring your secondary switches back to the main one without hopping from switch to switch to switch, and we could talk about that if you want to. But
Yeah,
that's a protocol, I think, standard, good IP topology practice.
Any questions so far? Yeah.
The nice switch right there, that's 67 only. Could that play in a Dante environment?
You talking about this switch?
Yeah. No, what's in your hand? That's a receiver.
Yeah.
So is it 67 only, or could it also play in a Dante environment if you had it?
Okay, so the question is, could this play in a Dante environment? Or is it a, so it could play in a Dante environment, but if the switch or the network isn't good enough, it could have jitter.
You could set your Dante stream to AES67, PTP 2.
You could.
The Dante's caught up to that. They were version 1, and their standard on the QoS was at a higher setting than the AES standard calls for. So when they're on the network, clock, who's got the clock? Dante will have the clock. and that's when something like that will fall over. So you can go in the domain manager and set your streams to PTP version 2,
But I think it's a license fee.
and it's a license fee. And it's,
Yeah.
I understand, I don't want to say this online, but it's not cheap.
And he did say something about quality of service. That's another thing. So just for everybody to understand, QoS, quality of service means what's getting priority. You know, this device comes in, it's audio. Well, is that more important or less important than video? Or, you know, so every device on your network always has a QoS flag, I guess you could call it. Another customer in Anaheim, California, you decide who it is, they found that Dante has QoS. They flagged their stuff as higher priority. And so that network group went in and automatically they said, nope, reflag it to be the same priority as everybody. Because what they found was their network could handle all the traffic, but when this higher priority thing came in, it would start dropping bits of other things because it was high priority.
Yeah.
So I wish I could answer your question, but it's dependent on the switch. It's dependent on so many things.
Yeah, and we could.
But if you could do PTP v2 on Dante, we're doing much better then.
Yeah, I don't want to. Well, I don't know if we need to get into
Yeah.
boundary clocks.
That might be
and
another
transparent clocks.
session that will come out for.
Yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to have a question about that transceiver that's IP based. Is that based on what generation of product?
That's okay. The question was the IP transceiver. So
There's two.
as I mentioned, we've got the E1 transceiver here that was just a home run back with FreeSpeak. Yeah. So what we did was we came up with the new FreeSpeak II IP transceiver. So this is exactly like this.
That's 1.9, by the way.
Yeah, the radio's 1.9. The difference is that since this is IP based and it's higher quality audio, we're able to actually do 10 bell packs per transceiver versus that one, which is 5.
But that only connects to either the Arcadia or a new device we have called the FreeSpeak Edge base station, or if you're in a matrix world, we have an IP card that goes in the matrix that supports 64 of those on 64 antennas on one card, transceivers rather, on one card, and up to 50 bell packs on one card. So it's for higher, bigger shows, but this is IP 1.9. This is IP 5 gigahertz RF, and this is the 5 gigahertz bell pack.
Did that answer your question? Yes. All right. Any other questions before
Good
we move
one.
on?
Go back to the beginning. You said powering. Did I understand you correctly? What you said there's internal powering?
Yes, on the Arcadia. Yes, there is an internal power supply, which is what we're using today, and then we've got an external one for your secondary.
External meaning wall wart.
Yeah.
Okay, 12 volt magic word. Yes, yes, we can power this device with a
I
battery.
see what he's getting
Yes.
at. Yes.
Yes. Magic words. Thank you, Peter.
AC DC, one AC for one, DC
Thank
for
you,
the other.
Peter. So how are we on time? I don't want to leave you out.
Okay, so let
Okay.
me jump into the CCM real quick. FreeSpeak II, HelixNet has this, Arcadia has this, but it's got an updated version. It's what the core configuration manager. You go in, you put in the IP address of the device. You can get to the IP by going to the menu here. It'll get a DHCP address if you've got one. Otherwise, you can statically set an IP on this. But if you go into the CCM, it'll come straight up, I believe, to the status page. So the status page is kind of a fun one that we've developed on the new CCM that the FreeSpeak II and HelixNet doesn't have. And it gives you everything in one big screen. And we've used icons to go in and be able to identify what's going on. So if a transceiver or a bell pack goes offline, it'll sit there and give you a little yellow circle and give you a warning. In fact, let me just disconnect this. Should be one of these two right here that'll eventually say, hey, we got a problem.
Yep, it
Oh,
dropped
there it
off.
went.
It dropped off.
Yep.
It dropped
And
off.
then if I plug it back in, it'll sit there and say, oh, yep, it's reestablishing and it's going. Which, by the way, these are PoE. They're not PoE plus, so that's kind of nice. You can scroll over something and just get a status update. But if I scroll down here, I've also got the FreeSpeak II. I've only got one on here at the time. And it even gives me a status of what's going on with that specific belt pack, which roll it's on, battery, which buttons are being pushed. So if I push different things, it'll show up here. Volume controls. I could do a remote mic kill, because we all know there's that lighting guy that won't turn off his mic, so you got to do an RMK. I'm sorry, I always like to pick on lighting guys. Is there one in? Yeah. You could do a call, so I can actually sit there, and in fact, I could even text, stop. And I can hit the call button, and it'll sit there and it'll give me the call, hey, stop whatever you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that it shows also is the status of your transceivers and what belt packs are on what. So this guy has a dot on our matrix for this one one transceiver that I've got going on here. But it also will tell me how many belt packs are on it and what's the max. So you'll start seeing, in fact, it'll turn yellow here when you've got 10 belt packs on. It'll turn red when something else is happening, something bad is going on. In fact, if I go up here, that's the Edge transceiver that's currently coming online. I can then click it, and it gives me some additional information. And right now it shows that it's initializing my audio over IP stream. And the next step is it'll probably say that it's syncing it or doing a radio check or something of that sort. So it'll sit there and keep you up to date on what's happening on each individual endpoint. In fact, if I even click over here, yeah, that's the Arcadia. We got our 2-wire. So this is just kind of a fantastic way of keeping track of what's going on in your system on a splash screen that you keep up when you're not doing anything. As we dig into the hardware, as I told you earlier, we've got 4 LAN ports, and you can divvy it up however you want. For today's purposes, I took Dante and my admin or management, and I put it on the same LAN port of LAN port 1. So I've got a static IP that I've set up. I could put in DNS if I need to, and then my gateway. And then down here on LAN 2 is my AS67. So AS67 then is going to another VLAN on this switch, which is then supporting this guy and my Edge transceiver. If I wanted to then, I could take Dante and maybe strip it off of that and put it onto my fiber port on LAN 3 and really get it separated. Throughout the hardware configuration, though, we've got all the typical menus that we've had in the past, including even some IP security. As Vinnie mentioned, we are going to have a thing called IVC linking set up soon. So what does that mean then? You could take this and have it phone home to your Miami office, your Chicago office that has an LQ. Or maybe in your Chicago office, you have one of these. Maybe it's being used for wireless at your local office. You could then set another one up in a truck. And the minute your truck powers up and uses like a cradle point, for example. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. There's a couple different providers out there, but this just has a SIM card in it. And I know, because I come from news, I come from broadcast. We used these in every vehicle. We had a 4G SIM card inside of it that then had a wired connection out to a switch that went to the rest of my truck. So you could take this, and on there, as soon as this gets to 4G and as soon as your LQ is fired up, it is phoning home then to your Arcadia that's sitting in your rack on your static external IP.
Don't lose that screen yet.
Oh.
Talk about the certificate. I think that's important
Yeah, so
for guys like that.
with the certificate and the security, when we start getting into the whole, let's be honest here, we got some really, really nasty characters on the other end of the world, opposite of us, that are really trying to take us down. And IP is the way to do that. That's really easy to come after us. So we are really digging in deep because we have a lot of broadcasters. We have a lot of, heck, I'll even name names. We've got the World Bank. We've got different entities in Washington. Pretty soon, we're even looking at the White House.
The White House Communications.
The White House Communications is going to be buying a bunch of Arcadias. You're going to see them out when the president goes on tour doing something. It's too bad he didn't have it in Ukraine when he did his visit last week. That would have been cool. So the point is, not to name names or drop names or anything like that, we have to worry about security, and that's where this comes in. So as soon as you get that guy going, most of the time, you guys don't need to worry about this because we're talking about IP certificates and all this different. 99% of the time, don't worry about it. But for those of you who do have to work with your IT department, and they say, I'm sorry, you're not putting that on our network without our certificates for the encryption to make sure everything's happy, at least we've got it.
Yeah, we can load in your certificate. A good example, he mentioned a company in Anaheim that runs a theme park. You don't ever want to come across those IT guys. They have a little jump drive that they'll put in the network and tell you, do you know you have a Linux server in that piece of gear? Take it out.
I'd say they're worse than the Department of Defense.
they're brutal. They're brutal,
Yeah.
and they want to load their own certificate in
I don't
there.
blame them.
So we make that available to you. If Streeter wants it, we can do it for him. I go back to Streeter a long time.
Another great feature of the Arcadia, if you think about, for any of you that are familiar with our Eclipse frame, which is our matrix, think of it as a rail where you could slide cards in and increase.
Well,
The Eclipse I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay.
May not be familiar with the Eclipse.
It's true. It's true. I'm sorry.
The beautiful part about Arcadia is we have filled it as full as we can. In fact, if you actually open this guy up and compare it to the FreeSpeak II base, it's got multiple layers of boards in there. It is heavy. There is a lot going on. But what our goal was at the end of the day when we built this was to be able to push it out the door and not have to do another upgrade to the hardware for as long as it's out there. So we are still in development of increasing port counts, capabilities, and we've got the hardware there. It's just going to come down to licensing after that to turn that stuff on. And firmware updates is the main thing. So the reason why license is such a boring topic, but this is important to mention. Right now, this has 32 ports on it. And a port, just to clarify, is an endpoint. This belt pack is one port out of the 32. This belt pack is another port out of the 32. So that's 2 ports right here. This HelixNet belt pack, it's got 2 channels on it. It's technically using two of those ports. If you add Agent IC later, that'll be a port. This does not take a port. This is not technically an endpoint because this is the endpoint. What else is going to be a port? Oh, LQ. So an LQ could do up to 8 connections over the internet back to this. That would be 8 ports if you used all 8 of them. You don't have to use all 8. You could do 1 or 2 at a time.
Yep.
2-wire does not count in that. 4-wire does not count in that. It comes down to those other endpoints.
Yep.
So 32 licenses is on there. And you could get this up to 64 ports at the moment. And I think eventually they're hoping to do more than that. I'm sorry? Not at this. No, you
As
cannot.
soon as the LQ.
Sorry, can you stack boxes?
Yeah.
Thank you. See, she's doing your job now. Can you stack boxes and expand it? No, you cannot.
Not
but
today.
The fix for that, generally speaking, would be doing SMPTE 2110 or Dante between them to share those resources.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, by the time you get to the point where, let's say you had 50 FreeSpeak II belt packs on one box, well, you're not adding more belt packs in that same area because you're already using up all your RF space. So, at that point, you're just maybe spreading out resources. But if you're getting to that point also, you're probably wanting to talk to us about an Eclipse frame.
Peter, did you want these nice folks to start looking at stuff and poking and putting on headsets if they want?
Yeah, sure.
Up to you. It's your show.
So at Gotham, we've used these solutions. We had them before COVID, but we weren't really FreeSpeak heavy. COVID changed all that. As Vinnie was saying, because of social distancing. So the biggest thing that I would like for everybody here and watching who is involved in film production and even reality production is when do you use these tools that have traditionally been used by broadcasters? And so, I've been called by more DPs in the last couple of years than I've spoken to DPs my entire career. Because really, for me, on a film set, this starts with the camera department. And just by show of hands, how many camera departments have you come across using their own version of FreeSpeak? Yeah, I mean, and so that, I think that can grow, right? And it can, there's benefits to bringing that out to the crew. Larry, you touched on, when we talk about power, these things are easily adapted to a kind of cart. And, that cart has all of the backup power that a film set needs. I favor the E1 transceivers, just as a note for the film set folks, because when you have to repatch power, the older E1 style transceivers, come up much quicker in terms of from a cold boot. So that's something, that's unique to our particular industry. On the other hand, the IP transceivers allow a lot more users to simultaneously be attached to them. And so these are the kind of trade-offs that we're faced with. I also want to kind of expand people's minds and get them thinking about different ways that these are useful, right? You can make as many logical groups as you can. I don't know if it's clear on the screen. This is just a web page. So that's really like, you don't need to install any software, and you start to think about it in terms of logical groups. So it might not be the entire camera department and the entire electric department. You might come across a DP that would like to talk to different cameras and camera operators individually. And that's where a system like Arcadia that integrates Dante comes in really handy, right? Because there's all these Dante boxes now that have lots of different channels built into them that are PoE powered, very set friendly, and you can make your own kind of logical associations into a physical communications pathway. The other thing that we should talk at least a little bit about is the 5 gigahertz belt packs. It is a little scary to talk about something that that operates on 5 gigahertz on a film set because of wireless video. But I think that Clearcom should, they've really made great strides in frequency coordinating this to work around wireless video. Justin, do you have,
So let me jump into that then.
Well, we've also got a question online. Ken was asking a little bit about the significance of giving agent ICs to PAs, producers, and others instead of contacts or walkies.
I can address that.
Yeah.
So we've done, what's that? Oh, well, Kendra's mic'd, yeah?
Yeah, her mic's on.
But the question was about Agent IC, which is this app that can tie in via the LQ into the FreeSpeak system. I can definitely talk about that. So one nice thing about Agent IC is, again, it's a web page. You log into the LQ box, and you have roles. That's sort of the biggest logical division to start to think about after you start to think about groups of people, are what role do they play? So, for example, a studio executive visiting set should never be given permission to talk to anybody through the Agent IC, right? They shouldn't even see that might be an option. They can only listen to program. But on the other hand, we've used Agent IC where there was a Mark Wahlberg film where the 2 of the key crew people, like 2 of the, I don't want to say it because of HIPAA, but 2 of the very key crew people in charge of running a set had COVID. And so they had to do their jobs from a hotel room watching a low latency video feed. They wanted to talk to departments individually. they wanted to talk to the lighting department. They wanted to talk to the grip, even the grip department, and individual camera operators. I will tell you one thing I learned really the hard way is that some people on set don't want to be communicated with, and sort of figuring out who was playing hard to get on that job, but also like overhearing things like they weren't happy with a certain shot, and meanwhile you see the crew tearing stuff down, you sort of bring the AD in on it. Which does segue into a position that I am a very, very strong advocate of, a union Local 52 position, which should be the communications manager. When it grows beyond a single department, there really should be somebody managing it for the set. And that's, it's going to be a hard fight. And sometimes, you might only be able to, like they treat DITs now, where you get on the set for a week and then, it gets to a place where it's self-managed. I'll take that as a win for now. I know of one job where they tried to do that, and that person ended up staying for the whole season. So, I think once people realize the significance of how this can improve communications, it's really good. Jeremy, let me just, Jonathan, sorry, let me get one last thing, because along those lines, we'll do like after this presentation is done. You guys can come up and we'll show how we integrate walkie-talkies, or one way we integrate walkie-talkies into this. Yeah, little Dante PoE. Basically, it's a Dante to walkie adapter. Jonathan, what we can say? Yes. I think there's a bit too much latency for the internet person. Can it replace Comtex? I think the latency can be about 20, 30 milliseconds, if it's going across the internet.
Depends on it.
So it's good for comms. And usually that matches a video going over the internet if they're really pushing it hard. But I don't know. It sounds good.
I will say that one of our biggest partners or customers is TV Globo. They're down in Brazil. I actually would argue that they're probably the biggest broadcaster in the world next to Disney. They're so massive. They have a monopoly on Brazil. They use LQ. In fact, I think they have upwards of like 25 Eclipse frames. LQs spread all over the world. And they all tie back to Brazil, and they've even used them for like the World Cup to get actual live audio of the broadcaster through the LQ back as a backup. And they were pretty happy with it, because we actually use an Opus codec in there where you can change the quality of it by a decent amount.
The applications for Agent IC are as broad as you can think. I work with one group where the director and producer were at home, and it was kind of like an MTV shoot with a set in a house, and they put Fostech powered speaker in the kitchen, in the bedroom, and a 4-wire out. He hit that button, and he was talking to the talent in the kitchen out of the speaker. So you think about it, we could maybe do it.
And on a broadcast side, we use a lot of Agent IC also for IFB for the talent.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll, instead of dialing into a hybrid of some sort, they will actually have the Agent IC. They'll sit there and get their mix minus listen. That then comes in from the LQ or from an Eclipse frame. And while they have Agent IC up and they're listening to program audio with mix minus, they also then can call the director or call Emge or call SAT, whoever they want.
Yeah.
And hey, here are my times. Here's this. Hey, I got a weirdo here. We got to shut down. So there's a lot of, it actually increases the capabilities exponentially versus having a hybrid connection.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting that maybe the sound department take over this communications going on set?
I'm walking away from this.
Camera departments are struggling to make this work. The lighting departments are doing this too. Maybe I'm putting this in my mind that you brought us all together
Yes. Yes, that was my big scheme. Yes. So Jerry's question was, am I suggesting that the sound department take this on? Not with the. So yes, with additional manpower. Yes. Yeah. I mean, and for anybody in film production watching online, absolutely. Yeah, this should be a position when it grows beyond a certain complexity. In my mind, and this is not official, it's when it grows beyond a single department, or whether there's safety involved. We've set up rigs where stunt coordinators were tied into a voice of God system, watching because they had to be socially distant, and giving cues to actors. And that, you absolutely should have, somebody, manning that. I want to do a dog and pony show. I want to try and do a dog and pony show. Brian, can you put Jared into the stream? And Jared, can you, do you mind just talking quickly? Jared's in Brooklyn.
Hi, this is Jared doing technical direction from Brooklyn. We're talking over Unity at the minute.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I mean, it is that. Actually, we did not rehearse that, but you would have seen how quick it could be. It is back and forth, and yeah, I mean, what is possible is really it's pretty amazing, and it's not limited, as you heard Jared say, to Agent IC. We use a competing product called Unity, and we use it for one very simple reason, which is the PC and Mac client that Agent IC is called Station IC doesn't talk to this a Stream Deck. Do you guys know any gamers here or any? Anyways, it's a little PC and Mac button matrix, but Unity does.
Can I cut in real quick?
Yeah, I just want to say, so I want to open your imagination, because you could tie a Zoom meeting into a FreeSpeak system. Yeah. So that is also important way that offset people can communicate. Yes?
Well, I was going to say, speaking of Stream Deck, I'm hearing a few rumors that we might have that support for Station AC eventually.
I told him.
All right. I probably shouldn't have said that out loud, but whatever.
That's great. Good.
I think the bigger message is, if you can envision it, we can make it work. And especially on your film set, there is no reason why, if you do the pre-work of having an LQ or some device in a rack already set up for IP and it's always working, why you can't just show up, power up your FreeSpeak II, or hand out a few username and passwords, and you're up and running very quickly. Because the whole point is plug and play. So there's ways to make that work very quickly for you.
Lauren, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. So 5 gigahertz, often a no-go on a film set. But do you have a way to
Let me jump into that. Yeah. So 1.9 gigahertz is pretty awesome because there's not a lot of people using it. You could get up to 50 bell packs within an RF room, one single RF space, I should say, with 1.9. But if you go to 5 gigahertz, and I'm just going to pull this guy up so I could paint a better picture. Here we go. So in this room, I don't see any right now, but there's probably one wireless access point in here that's running the Wi-Fi. That access point has 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz. And on the 5 gigahertz side, it's using probably just a single channel for this one room, and there's probably another one on the other side of this wall, because 5 gigahertz does not propagate as well as 1.9. In fact, what was your name back there that's walking out the door and ignoring me? Melissa. So Melissa's got a FreeSpeak II. You've been walking around. How far have you gone so far before you had breakup? I haven't had it yet. All right. Well, there you go. 1.9 is great. It propagates really well. It goes through walls. I mean, we got concrete and brick here. It doesn't care. 5 gigahertz, not so much. As soon as it hits that wall, it's bouncing off of it, and it's not going through it. So that's the larger problem here. But in most cases, though, you can make that up by either deploying more of these, or maybe you put on an external antenna that has higher gain on it. You've got options. What's interesting, though, is in 1.9 gigahertz, you are limited in the channels. 5 gigahertz, however, has 25 channels. So if you just start here, and this is something I use a lot with customers, so if you just go to Wikipedia, you'll find the list. If you go to the United States, it starts at channel 32, and it goes all the way down to channel 165. Some of these where it says indoors is not available to us. But the thing that's also interesting, that's good for you to know, is there's two types of channels. There's just your regular channel for 5 gigahertz, and there's one called DFS. That's an FCC thing where if you decide to use a DFS channel, you have to go scan that frequency for like 2 minutes, 4 minutes. I can't remember what the time frame is. So it looks at it, and it just looks and looks and looks and looks. And it's not looking for another device that's on it. It's actually looking for a radar. So LaGuardia, down the street, has a weather radar that's up there spinning. It's on a specific 5 gigahertz frequency at all times.
Doppler.
It's a Doppler radar. Now, the Weather Service, I don't know where that radar dome is located. It's probably in New Jersey somewhere. That is not on 5 gigahertz. Because that has to go out much further. It has to look out in the tri-state area. It's not 5 gigahertz. It's a much lower frequency. But with 5 gigahertz, with it being a higher frequency, somebody like LaGuardia will use it. You've also got one at JFK. You've also got one in Newark. So they are on specific channels, and they are within those DFS channels. They can't go anywhere else. However, we have to go there and on our transceiver scan that DFS channel for 3 or 4 minutes. And if we say, oh, yep, I don't see a radar, then you're free to use it. However, if a radar pops up, you got to vacate. If you don't vacate, the FCC comes and knocks on your door. Well, they knock on my door, not your door.
And that's not just FreeSpeak. That's
Anybody.
5 gigahertz access point FCC ruling is the device, when it senses the Doppler, must vacate. So we have a backup channel.
So I actually had an argument with a guy. He was a frequency coordinator. I was bringing in 5 gigahertz for, I think it was a football game of some sort. And he said, whoa, 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 you can't use that. The FCC doesn't allow it on the DFS channels. He didn't do his homework. All he found was this one complaint from the FCC where a customer bought, I think, a Ubiquiti high-gain transmit receive device, IP, and he set it on a DFS channel, and he turned off all the rules that said to vacate when a radar popped up. Well, he happened to be next to a major airport, and that airport, they would be scanning, and they'd see a blip over at this specific heading. And they were like, what's going on? So they finally called the FCC. The FCC found it, and they said, it's this guy. He's not vacating. He's on the same frequency, and they fined him like $500,000. So our system is set up to vacate immediately. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But that's pretty good information to know should you deal with a frequency coordinator. Anyway.
Can I jump in?
Please.
So I'm a firm believer in teaching and learning by failure, or rather, I will teach you my failure. Project Runway, they were maxed out at 1.9 gigahertz. And so I suggested we do 5 gigahertz. And so I will, and it was actually working decently well. It behaved well with all the other wireless cameras. I failed to set up one thing, which I hope, Justin, you'll show me, which is don't ever jump on a DFS channel. Because what would happen in my system was it would land on an empty DFS channel, everybody would be happy, and then a radar would pop up, and then it would hop off of the DFS channel, and people would lose communications. And I didn't know that, to how to set it up properly. So it's something to be aware of, because you're not in control. And so from my perspective, I would just as soon, if I was in an unknown area, I would just tell it not to do DFS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the good thing is, if you look at the Edge transceiver, you notice there's 2 antennas on there. It's actually 2 radios. Would you like to see that? It's got 2 radios. And each radio is on a different channel. And they're sending and receiving at the same time. So if one of those channels gets stepped on by somebody's laptop coming online, access point moved to the channel, at least you got a backup that it'll go to. And then we've also got a backup channel set up to the backup, transmit, and receive. So within our system, we have a backup channel so that if this one is on DFS and it sees a radar, it'll go to that backup channel, which is not DFS. So you've got a lot of options there, and we're trying to work well within the FCC guidelines. I mean, let's be honest, we're all kind of in a bad spot. We don't know where to go. Do you have any ideas where we can go? I don't have any ideas. We're out of frequencies. So 5 gigahertz was the last option that we had to consider, and that's what this product is. The other good thing is this has 2 radios in it as well. So it's always sending and receiving both channels at the same time. The other great thing also is we have set up tools within this. So if I go into the diagnostics and I do a channel scan, it's going to reboot to a new application. And that application is kind of like your phone. So if you guys have Wi-Fi analyzer on your cell phone, it goes out and it just shows you the traffic on each one, the channel, the SSID. Well, this is basically doing the same thing. If I scroll around, it'll just sit there and it'll scan all these channels. And if I scroll with my encoder, it'll show me how busy that channel is. It'll show me what SSIDs are on it. So right now this says that I'm on quad, there's wireless guest. Somebody's cell phone is transmitting something. GSC quad wireless guest. So there's 1, 2, 3, there's almost 12 channels available just in this facility that's not being used. So you're free and clear to go. Here you go. Well, you could also do an RF scan from the transceiver through the GUI of the Arcadia as well. Now, I will tell you that, and I don't know if this is good or bad, I have gone to an arena and I've actually found a busy channel and I purposely put my transceiver on it and the access point vacated and went, oh, it's too busy, and it went somewhere else. So you can kind of do a brute force method if you want. But a lot of Wi-Fi systems are set to automatic. This is currently not automatic. I will tell you though that engineering is looking at the next version of this so that you can go out, hit, hey, go scan and pick stuff. And when it sees stuff, pick a channel, pick 2 channels actually, even if they're DFS. And then if, let's say, it sees a radar, hey, go rescan it or go find another DFS channel. Everything is currently static. That's the only bad part right now. But there are plans to make that so much easier because I know we're all so used to DECT and FreeSpeak II, you just go. So that is coming. The next thing that I wanted to show you also is, and this is maybe less for on the run type shows where you're filming something, but we came up with a thing called Ekahau. And let me give you an example of why this is important. So this is the Neutral Buoyancy Lab down at Johnson Space Center in Houston. And that's where they have the entire International Space Station down in the pool. And the astronauts go in and they do run-throughs. So they're a big customer of ours. They've got like 2 or 3 Eclipse frames there, and they've got 2.4 gigahertz. We couldn't take 1.9 there. In fact, no 1.9 system would work because they have a metal ceiling, steel walls, and a pool. It's nothing but an echo chamber for RF. Your cell phone will barely work in there. The multipath is incredible. I've never seen anything like it. Well, 5 gigahertz, though, loves multipath. If you take it in there, you could put one transceiver here, and I actually tested it. I put it way over here. I got to the other end of the facility, no problems. It just bounced all over the place and worked great. So 5 gigahertz is great in a facility like this. Problem was, where do I put the transceivers? Because this is a permanent install. So we went to this company called Ekahau. They're a third-party vendor, and the companies that they usually work with are like stadiums, Disney, corporate facilities. So if you go to any office building that has massive amount of Wi-Fi, chances are their IT guys have Ekahau. You go in and you import a map, and you put in walls. So right now I've got concrete wall here that I've drawn. I've got a brick wall here that I've drawn. I could even add, cubicles here. So if this is a cubicle here, I can draw that line so it's a cubicle, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. After that, I then go in and I pick my access point. So this list is pretty long. Adtran, Cisco, all the different Wi-Fi access points. But what we've done though is we've gone in and we did a full RF scan of the edge transceiver of this guy, and we gave that data to Ekahau. And Ekahau then gave us a profile. So you can then zoom in, and after I've drawn my walls and told it what's going on, I drop an access point in there, or my transceiver, and I can change the channels, I can change the power, and it'll give me a pretty good estimate of the heat map of where it'll go within that facility. So this is what I used then when I went out to the NBL and did a site survey to identify where the transceivers should go. Now this is more meant for permanent installs in my opinion, but it's a pretty awesome tool that we have that you're able to call us and say, hey, I got this. What do you think, Clearcom? Where should I put my transceivers? So I could try to help you out.
Why is it better for permanent installs and not throw down for a couple days in a stadium? Or if we show up on a remote, why is it better for permanent install versus just at any time?
Yeah, so the question is why is it better for permanent installs versus a remote throwdown? You could do it for a remote throwdown. I think, like as an example, the NBA All-Star game this past weekend, they had FreeSpeak Edge there, and so I happened to be in Salt Lake City, so I stopped by. And while I was there, we did a quick Ekahau site survey, and we did identify the better places to put it. The problem that I see is if you're going to try to use Ekahau for just a very quick, hey, I've got 5 bell packs in an arena. For me, it's, okay, I need 3 transceivers. I need one in the arena, one for the back, next to the green room, and one next to the truck. So it depends on how big of a system you're doing. But if you're doing a quick 4 or 5 transceiver throwdown, just use logic, in my opinion. Otherwise, you could go at it. And
wouldn't that then tell you how many access points you have to put up? Like, so I know I only need 2 access points to cover this area rather than 4.
yeah. It could get to that level. It could, yes.
It could. Ekahau is like $4,000.
That's the issue. It's not something we sell.
That would maybe.
It's no. I pay about $1,500 a year to keep that license going.
But then it's got every access point known to man that's Wi-Fi.
Now
2.4 and 5.
The other cool thing though is we also bought this thing called the kickback, or I can't remember the name of it. It's this little belt pack that you wear. It plugs into your laptop, and you go, after you've put in your map, you click on the map where you're located, and it scans. And as you walk, you keep clicking on the map. And as you walk, at the end of your site survey, it then goes, here's what I see in your room. I see this it thinks it saw one here, it thinks it saw one there. It tells you the channels, the power, the SSIDs. So it is nice with the kickback, or whatever the heck that thing is, to be able to go in and know what's happening. And I think, I'm not sure if it'll see wireless cameras though, because that's the other element we got to talk about. Those wireless cameras that you guys use, they use multiple channels. Like they're usually up to 4 channels of a block. And most of the time, they don't allow you to use DFS. They're always outside of DFS. So it reduces our chances of having better channels. And I think that device will also see it.
Yeah, I would just jump in and, 5 gigahertz in the Clearcom world has a number of advantages. The sound quality is really great. You get extra channels on the belt pack. There are tremendous advantages, but you have to coordinate with the camera department on film and TV stuff where they're using the wireless video. That's the real downside.
It's 256 encrypted.
Oh, that's the other thing. It is encrypted. So versus 1.9, that is not.
Well, it's encrypted, but not to that level.
Yeah.
We should hand it off to questions because we're starting to get that time. There's one thing I wanted to mention about the E1 that makes it really super film friendly. Cat 5 we think of as limited to 100 meters. If you use these E1 transceivers, the limitation, especially if you locally power it, 1,000 feet?
Yeah, it's at least.
Yeah, I mean at least 1,000 feet. So we did a job that was a kind of fashion show in a subway tunnel, subway platforms, where we were able to really just run thousands of feet of cable without worrying about the traditional TCP/IP limitations. So I think we should make sure there's questions. We get to questions.
Do you want to start with online?
We are still waiting for more online questions. So if you'd like to submit an online question, now is your opportunity.
You said there's 2 radios, 5G radios in the Edge system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Does that expand capacity of bandwidth?
No.
By chance, or is it just for frequency hopping?
It's just for frequency and making sure that you got a good connection. It's still 10 bell packs per transceiver. Mm-hmm.
How have you found the power consumption for the HNIC app as compared to Unity?
So the question was, how do I find the power consumption between Agent IC and Unity? I haven't noticed a difference. It doesn't mean there is no difference. It just hasn't come up for me. But it's a good thing to think about. What have you noticed any?
Unity drains faster.
The gentleman's saying Unity drains faster.
I'll tell you what.
I was hoping.
I'll tell you what we can do. When I loaned this nice guy the 2 LQs, there are 8 Agent IC licenses in an LQ. We'll get those LQs with licenses in them. I did mention that the LQ also has 8 SIP accounts inside an LQ. So if you've got IP phones on Streeter's desk and you want to ring them, he could pick up the phone *123 and talk to you in a truck.
And I can,
But does he
show
really
you
want
that
that?
functionality.
We didn't go through that, but
Just don't tell Streeter about it.
yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely show. It's come in handy where like you can give somebody a telephone number, a call out from the LQ. I did want to show these Sonim phones.
Yeah.
They're
I got one powered up here.
Oh, cool. They're Butch LTE cell phones. The thing that makes them interesting is, they take a walkie accessory.
You guys want to pass it around?
And you can, just use it like a surveillance, as well as lots of other accessories. And it does work with both apps. It works. The PTT accessory works a little bit better with Unity, but Agent IC does just fine on this.
How many channels you use with that?
On Agent, so this can only talk to one channel, but when we've done 10 channels on Agent IC, I mean you're limited by the 4-wire paths.
On there, yeah, 10.
Yeah. I mean it scales. It scales pretty well. And then one trick for I assume you guys are broadcast. Yes. We load this now with a remote controlled software whose name escapes me. So when you do give it out in the field, Splash Top, when you do give it out in the field, if they have trouble, we can dial into it. Splash Top is unique because it doesn't need the user's permission, once you give it permission the first time. So it's helpful if they're having trouble. You can just say, let me take a quick look.
Nice.
That's for telephone. So if you go to any company and you look at their desk, I'm sorry, yes, what was the question? What is a SIP phone? Yes, so if you go to any corporate office and you look on the desk, there's a Cisco phone or of some sort. That's a corporate phone, that's SIP. So SIP is kind of the standard. It's voice over IP, but it's a standard phone protocol that's used quite a bit now. So in most cases, in fact, there's actually even now cloud SIP servers. You don't have to have a PBX phone system in your server room anymore. You can actually use a thing like, I'm trying to remember one of them. OnSIP is not one of them?
Yeah, we use OnSIP. So like for us, it shows up as a dial tone, right? We pay a little extra money and like $5 a month and we get access to the public telephone network. On a CBS show, if CBS is all SIP set up, you could program it to a production executives, and you would give them a SIP extension, which is basically like an email address for telephones.
Yeah, you have to involve the IT department.
for better or for worse.
Yeah,
We do have a question from online asking about transceiver strength and filters because certain 5G wireless camera manufacturers, their filters hurt the UHF transmitters. They're asking about that.
So I assume that with the filters, they're probably talking about the fact that if you look at it, it's kind of dirty when it kind of, the shoulders, I guess, at the end of the frequency does kind of go into other frequencies. And we actually saw this at the NBA All-Star
channel
game.
width, yeah.
The channel width just kind of bleeds.
Are we talking 1.9 or 5
5
gigahertz?
gigahertz.
5
5
gigahertz.
So unfortunately, the only thing you can do is just get at least one channel away. Have one channel between you and the shoulders of that, or the endpoints of that frequency.
And this is not a ClearCom issue. This is just
It's
the
more of
nature of 5 gig.
It's the nature of the
chipsets.
radio. It's the individual radio. Some of them are just not that clean. I'm not saying ours is clean or dirty. I'm just stating based off of that question. Yeah, some of those can bleed out into other frequencies.
Those of you that have run ClearCom stuff on set, well, there's a lot we're missing, but what should people here walk away from? If you can think of anything, let me know.
I have a question. I find the program input to be the most useful thing to me on set. How would I use Dante as part of this? Like, what's a use case scenario?
I've done it. I've done it. Yeah, no, it's great. So the question was, yes, Aaron. So right. So the program input is hugely beneficial, and it's one of the selling points of getting this on a set is that we're now replacing your Comtech, right? So when it's an analog input, that's obvious, and sometimes I've even done like Comtech receiver to XLR mail into the program input on here. When it's Dante, if you're mixing on a Yamaha board these days, it's just subscribing a Dante channel and assigning it into the program in.
This.
There you go.
Yeah.
Many ways to get from analog to Dante.
Yeah, but the right. So talking about Arcadia specifically because it's got Dante integrated. I've done, certainly done program via Dante, just natively into the Dante, stream, and then you assign it, just like you would assign other audio I/O into a channel. You can, assign that Dante as program into a channel. So I've done a couple of things. One, I was involved in a show that was kids playing astronauts in spacesuits. And the director wanted to talk to each actor individually without the other actors hearing it, right? So this is very much like an earwig situation with multiple hosts and judges. There are Dante boxes in the world, Glen Sound and Studio Technologies make them, that are basically one gooseneck mic and 8 buttons, 16 buttons. They're like panels, basically.
Here.
Yeah. And so in the Dante world, that's how I would do that. In the ClearCom world, there's actual key panels.
So this is a 12-key panel. We have a 24-key and a 32-key. You could have this connected to the Arcadia, which is coming, by the way. It's not here yet. And you could have party line for your main stuff. Maybe you have audio here, lighting here. But then the rest of these, and by the way, there's also shift pages on this. So I could have a shift page 1 through 8, and maybe on those other shift pages, I could listen to specific microphones or talk to specific people.
Without a matrix, I can use this panel right in the Arcadia?
Yes.
Coming.
It's coming,
Coming.
I don't want to buy the Eclipse.
So
it's big.
There were large show in California. Imagine this: 60 wireless microphones, pre-fader, Dante into the intercom. I could put them on this button as a party line. Now I'm listening to all 60 microphones. I hear a pop. I can go to this channel and scroll through every Dante channel. It's a Dante listen monitor. And we've done that before. There's other ways to do it with on the console. Waves on an audio console. You dump it into waves.
Well, this is great when I'm moving around a lot, where I don't have to worry about a matrix and getting it from A to B.
Yeah.
This sounds great.
You can put it on and scroll through Dante channel.
Oh, and by the way, this frame also could go over the internet. So you could be anywhere in the world and listen to those Dante devices that are on the other end of the world.
Yeah. So yeah.
This will actually phone home to the Arcadia the same way the LQ and Agent IC does, with the same latency.
Right. So I was going to say you're not limited to audio either. We've used Agent IC to control quad splitters. So somebody watching remotely can change what they're watching by GPIOing into a quad splitter. And then this same kid astronaut show, the kids would get unruly, and so I made the AD a button that controlled the GPIO of the Yamaha console that muted the kids' microphones.
Oh, I thought you were going to shock them.
So, which she was very grateful for. So yeah, I mean, and yeah, that's sort of like another way to think about it. You can do bells and lights. You know, really, you're not limited to audio.
Tens.
We have one more question online asking, producers keep asking for belt packs that connect to Bluetooth headsets. Solutions, thoughts, ideas,
Handle that one?
dreams.
I can handle it as a non-employee.
As a non-employee, you do what you want.
What happens when you lose the pair?
I will tell you.
Are they able to? Are they repeat the question.
Well, no, Kendra had a mic, but yeah, I mean, yes, Bluetooth is really cute on set. What ends up happening, in my experience, is you need multiple Bluetooth headsets, right, to keep going for a 14-hour day. One set dies, then you got to have another one on standby and repair. But having said that, yeah, there are competing wireless intercom systems that have Bluetooth functionality built into the belt pack and bottle openers.
I will add to that though, and I'm going to come from this. If I take off my ClearCom name, I'm going to come to you as a customer that I was for over a decade, because I was a broadcast engineer that used all three systems: RTS, Riedel, and ClearCom. I actually ran into problems with the Bluetooth because the problem is a lot of times you go out and you're buying a $50 headset. Well, there's a reason why this stuff is expensive. There's a reason why our headsets are expensive. They're built and tested and proven to be used by professionals who use it for 12 hours, and it has to work. With the Bluetooth, that gets really, really tough because you're relying on a third-party device. And I will use Agent IC as an example. We have how many phones out there? Yes, we have 5 versions of iPhones, but Android's the most popular phone worldwide. He's got a Huawei. I've got Pixel. You guys have Samsung. That is so difficult for us to support because one phone is different from the next, and everything's different, and we have problems from one phone to the next. Same thing with Bluetooth headsets. So it gets really tough for us, and if we are going to develop something, I'll tell you, it's going to be so that it's as support-proof as possible, so that maybe it doesn't break and you're not buying a Walmart special Bluetooth headset to make it work. We don't want to support that. So I'm hoping someday that's something that we have come about, but it's something that we have to do right. Otherwise, you're going to be pissed at ClearCom. So give us time on that. I'm hoping to see something.
And and having said that, the ones that I found reliable are the Blue Parrot, the ones you see the truckers use, and the Open Comms one. But they're both expensive, and the Blue Parrot will last all day, but the Open Comms definitely won't. So.
But then there's user proficiency. I mean, what happens when a director loses the pair?
Yeah.
I mean, does he know how to get it back? And does he know how to navigate a menu to get to the pairing menu on the belt pack? These are issues, right? He's laughing. He's laughing. These are the practicality sometimes, outstrips that. And we work a lot on the headsets, and you would know garbage in, garbage out. So if you're going to use the speaker microphone that came with your iPhone, what do you think the intercom's going to sound like? It's not going to sound very good, right? So
Any other online questions? All right. Anything else
Good.
from you guys? The clock is ticking. If there's bad questions, let's hold off until the stream is no.
you want to poke around and
Yeah, we eat our own dog food. I mean, we've been talking to Jared all day in Brooklyn,
wanna
and
poke around and
come
try
visit
stuff?
us in the back, and we'll show you what we're doing. And yeah,
All right. Well, with that, I guess I would like to just thank Local 52 for partnering with us on this event, allowing us to use the space. Much appreciated. Thank you as well to Justin and Vinnie from ClearCom for sharing all of their expertise with us and
Thank
giving
you.
us
Thank you for having us.
a wonderful informational session all about some comm events. I don't know if you saw in the newsletter or the reminder about this, but ClearCom did make some additional reading guides for you all, and it sounds like their website is also a wonderful resource, clearcom.com. So thank you all for coming out on a Saturday. I'd like to remind you that the Gotham Expo is happening Saturday, May 6th. So put that in your calendars for the expo. You're welcome to take a look at the equipment. If you did not get a gift card for attending, please see Julia, let one of us know. And thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you, guys.
thank you, everybody.